What is going on? Welcome back into Barley Studios, everybody. Let's continue this awesome series. Now, in this series, we are going to be working on the Disney Pixar I Lava You light switch. Now, this is just one of the paintings videos in this overall playlist that you can find here on my YouTube channel. Now, in the previous video, we had actually sculpted this from Sculpey Original to perfection. So make sure you go back and check out that video. I will also link the entire playlist at the very end of this content video. Now, in this video, we're going to be working on the overall wave formations, the beach, as well as the whales coming up and out of that beautiful water sculpted kind of texture there. Now we're going to be starting off with just basic colors in general. We're going to be working with a Windsor blue, which is a very nice deep rich blue, as well as a turquoise, which really sets these water waves apart. We're also going to be using some pure titanium white, and we will introduce a little bit of yellow, cadmium yellow hue as well, just to give it some of that nice light cascading through the water's effect. So of course we're going to be starting off with just getting a nice overall layer of Windsor blue. Now in the previous session the night before, I actually used a bunch of Windsor blue that I had left on my palette and gave it a nice base layer over the Mars Black base with the Windsor blue. Then we're going to go ahead and introduce a little bit of Windsor blue, the turquoise, as well as some titanium white to give it some just general overall dry brush highlights over some of this sculpted texture here. At this point in time, I do have my palette introduced on the left hand side, so you can kind of see where I'm going with some of the color combinations. If you need to slow this down or speed it up in the YouTube settings, you can do so. That is, if you'd like to slow this down just a little bit. So as you can see, we're starting to introduce a little bit of that cadmium yellow hue there. Now just remember that we're going to mix that with the turquoise there. So a lot of these waves are kind of just recessed in some ways, but some of them I actually physically pushed up in texture so that way they look like they're actually wave formations. Now obviously on the left hand side, that's a much larger wave, and then they get smaller as they work their way across and around the back side of the beach. So we're supposed to be like we're looking at the shoals of a beach, kind of, or a sandbar in front of the actual volcanoes from the I Lava You Disney Pixar short. Now what we're doing here is we're mixing a little bit of titanium white as well as some ultramarine blue here, and we're just doing a dry brush over this. And as we start to introduce more layers here, we're going to introduce titanium white, a little bit of yellow, cadmium yellow hue into the layers, and we'll bring up the color tone of these layers here. You're going to start to see they're going to look a lot more bright, a lot more airy, and it's going to really simulate like that paint, or the sunlight paint color is really shining through the waves when we get everything said and done. So you want to make sure that the waves look kind of really dimensional and not just super flat and one color of overall tone. So here we are, you can really see that yellow popping through there, and it really does make the difference here. Now we'll get to the whales here shortly, and it'll kind of bring it all together a little bit, and we'll also work on detailing the beach some. So I'm just using a small detail brush here, and I'm just kind of like nitpicking over it. We're going to bring a little bit more pure Windsor blue in just a moment, and we're going to darken out some of these recesses underneath of the wave formations here. And it's going to make the overall ocean look a little bit deeper in some areas. And it's supposed to look like these raised textures on the left-hand side are kind of like little froths on top of the water or on top of the waves. As we work our way up into more of a titanium white and a yellow cadmium hue, we will be more so working on just the froth that's coming up and off the tops of the waves. And as we work from dark to light in a wet blending process, to kind of dry brushing over the tops of those sculpted ridges, it really just brings over the overall dimension of that sculpted detail to life. It looks absolutely phenomenal at this point, and we have a little bit of tackiness here, but it's not too much to where we can't work on the beach a little bit. We're going to go ahead and use just a stippling brush here. Now, this is an actual filbert, but we're using a stippling texture here. And we're just going to go ahead and stipple a little bit of texture over these, kind of a little bit of film that I had brought up from the watercolor here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to just make it almost look like these are kind of like the subsiding waves off of the edge of the beach. And like the wave came up, it hit the edge of the fin, and then it kind of pulled back a little bit. We're also going to add a little bit of dimension and depth to the overall beach, instead of just keeping it all the same sand color, that is a sand color from Liquitex. It's very old paint. I need to use it up and get rid of it, and I just happen to have it on hand, so we're going to use that for this particular project for the overall beach texture. We're introducing a little bit of burnt umber into this below the shadows of the turtles. I actually used my halo light above, and as I move it back and forth, it creates its own shadows, and I'm just using that as a reference to put these shadows underneath the turtles. Just very easy, very, very light way to do it. I'll probably intensify the shadow underneath the turtles as we work into the turtle painting video, and that will be the next in this overall series here. We're going to go ahead and work on the whales also. And now these are sculpted separately from the waves, and they're kind of just added in afterwards. And then the actual back fin is glued into place, which actually worked out quite well. I used tacky glue for that. I haven't used that on a clay item actually ever, and it turned out quite well. You'll also notice there's a secondary whale kind of coming up out of the water as well, kind of like a coupling pair there. And we're going to go ahead and work through our colors here using the same colors, but we're actually going to introduce a pale powder blue from Winsor & Newton into this, and that's what the main belly of the whale is going to be. And then we'll also give that titanium white highlight as well. The more so the back side, or the top of the whale facing away from us, is going to be that very dark, beautiful Winsor blue. It's a very dark color, and it really looks great. We're also going to give it some little titanium white highlights around the fins and around the base of the tail where it's coming up and out of those waves, just to give it a kind of like a 3D kind of like froth effect, without really having to sculpt that into the overall texture. So it's actually really simplistic as far as the whale painting in general, but it's just something that adds just a little bit of characteristics to it, and it really does look good against that green rocky background that the volcanoes are providing for this. It looks really good as far as supplying just a different color in contrast to this beautiful blue and kind of like frothy whales coming out of the water look. You also notice that in some particular areas where I'm using the froth, I'm also actually painting that physically onto the rock formations in the background, and it makes it look like that froth is coming up and off these 3D waves and kind of like just floating in the air. I really love the yellow, cadmium yellow hue on some of these waves, specifically on the left-hand side. It almost looks like the light is cascading through those kind of breaking waves, and you really see those bright greens and yellows popping through those more so transparent waves. And then, of course, the actual deep ocean on the left-hand side, lower portion of our canvas here, is a lot darker, a lot more, it makes it feel deeper in the ocean before it gets actually very filmy and it comes up onto the beach itself. I think it gives a really good contrast, and it really brings the overall sculpted item to life. I'm really happy with how it turns out, and I cannot wait to paint these little turtles. Now, this is just one video of this overall playlist. If you want to check out the full-length playlist, make sure you do so. It's about to pop up on the screen. Otherwise, enjoy these little glamour shots, and I will catch you on another portion of this awesome project. Make sure you go back and check out some of the other awesome painting videos for this, including the actual I Love You volcanoes themselves. Looking pretty good, you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next awesome painting video.